challenges.
I live in Kerrville. Why was the National Weather Service not pinging their phones before 7 o'clock the day of 4th of July? We need the federal people to answer that maybe for us. I got updates at 7 o'clock. First one I heard. And I've heard updates throughout the week, but not before 7 o'clock in the morning. Wasn't that a fundamental failure of the federal government's responsibility to keep us safe?
Well, you know, my background is before I was in the secretary position here under the Trump administration, I was governor of South Dakota and served in Congress for 8 years before I was governor. And so I will tell you that for decades, for years, everybody knows that the weather is extremely difficult to predict, but also that the National Weather Service over the years at times has done well, and at times we have all wanted more time and more warning and more alerts and more notification. That is something, and one of the reasons that when President Trump took office, that he said he wanted to fix, and is currently upgrading the technology. And the National Weather Service has indicated that with that and NOAA that we needed to renew this ancient system that has been left in place with the federal government for many, many years, and that is the reforms that are ongoing there. The timeline that I have, I don't oversee the National Weather Service. That's not under my department, but the timeline that I did receive from them was that the notifications started to look at its expansion for its limited flood impact area that started on July 3rd at 1:18 p.m. The flood watch was issued. Although it was moderate, it wasn't to the extremes that it was, that when the system came over the area that it stalled, it was much more water, much like I think we experienced during Harvey, the same type of system that was unpredictable in the way that it reacted and the way that it stopped right here and dumped unprecedented amounts of rain that caused a flooding event like this. They continued to elevate and up their notifications. You know, when your notification hit your phone, sir, I'm sorry, I can't speak to when that is, but I do carry your concerns back to the federal government and to President Trump, and we will do all we can to fix those kinds of things that may have felt like a failure to you and to your community members. But we know that everybody wants more warning time, and that's why we're working to upgrade the technologies that have been neglected by far too long to make sure that families have as much advanced notice as possible. But
the pool is completely flooded.
Texas edition. How do I put this, troops?
The sewer system is going off because it's getting full of water.
Has arrived in Texas.
17 inches of rain
While Texans
overnight.
are literally up to
It
their
absolutely poured.
homes floated away like, I don't know, discount
Got a
furniture.
little bit of water here.
Walmart sale.
That's getting into the sewer
Riding
system.
in to help Kristi Noem, and by help I mean she rolled in looking like she was auditioning for Real Housewives of Red State.
And then
Risk listening with a
this way, this direction is towards the river. In several houses, people had to be rescued
down
because five houses were flooded in the neighborhood. We can't get out either because the road is not passable. There's 3 foot of water on 29, from what I heard.
Crazy. You can't make this up. I'm serious. People are losing everything: lives, homes, pets. And there's Kristi standing there with her, I think it's a 50,000 wristwatch. But like she's about to announce the launch of Rolex Relief. For every home destroyed, I will show one more luxury item you'll never afford. The woman looked like she was ready to cut the ribbon to the new Gucci store, not tour a disaster zone. The messaging is dreadful. She wasn't wearing a watch, she was wearing audacity on her arm. All joking apart, I half expected her to lean in the cameras and say, "Our thoughts and prayers are with you," and by our I mean me and my Rolex Daytona. At one point, she pointed to the damage. House is submerged, tree snapped in half, and the sun hit that gold so hard, I think 3 birds fell out of the sky, blinded or something. Sorry to sound so gross. Somewhere a MAGA guy in cameo just whispered, "That ain't very Jesus-like." I think even the MAGAs are feeling uncomfortable with her showing off her watch. You just know Kristi's team coached her. Look concerned. Don't mention dogs or puppies. Whatever you do, don't check the time. We don't need people to see the diamond dial while they're standing knee-deep in shitty sewage from the storms. But no, there she was, sparkling like a tax break, handing out sound bites like, "We stand with Texas." Yeah, I think you stand with Texas the way Ted Cruz stands with Cancun. It's nearly a four-letter word. Briefly, awkwardly, and only when it looks good on camera. Honestly, if Kristi Noem wanted to really help, she should have used that Rolex as a flotation device or sold it and built an ark. Instead, we get Disaster Barbie doing a catwalk of carnage.
Days out from what's forecast to be an above-normal hurricane season, scientists across the country are sounding the alarm over critical staffing shortages. Inside the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, officials are scrambling to fill more than 150 critical National Weather Service roles, left vacant after sweeping cuts from the Trump administration. Overall, the service has lost 600 of its 4,000 employees since January. 5 former NWS directors calling it their worst nightmare in an open letter earlier this month, predicting understaffing could lead to needless loss of life.
Let's take another question.
Let's go to our next question from Diane, zip code 28787. Why are you supporting the destruction of all of our North Carolina agencies, NOAA, Social Security, FEMA, VA, etc.?
Yeah. I think we have to look for efficiency in every single government agency that's out there. There are about 2 million federal employees that you are paying for every single year. There are government has bloated exponentially since the pandemic. I believe that we owe it to the taxpayers to go and look for efficiencies that are out there. Let's go ahead.
Our next question comes from Jim.
Listen, I've been on this, since 8 o'clock this morning on social media, and there is a lot of anxiety out there because you don't see it turning, right? When is it going to turn? John, it's not turning. It's coming straight to us. It's going to turn, all right? The turn was never forecast to be on Sunday. The turn isn't even on Monday morning. The turn will come Monday afternoon, Monday evening, into Tuesday. Remember that? That was about 6 years ago. That was Hurricane Dorian, as it was absolutely devastating the northwest Bahamas as a Category 5, sat over that region for 2 days. It was headed straight west. Lots of people in Florida were concerned the hurricane was heading here. And as you've grown accustomed to my presentations over my 34 years in South Florida newscasts, confidently, I went on TV and I told you, it's going to turn. You don't need to worry. It is going to turn. And I am here to tell you that I am not sure I can do that this year because of the cuts, the gutting, the sledgehammer attack on science in general, and I could talk about that for a long, long time, and how that is affecting the U.S. Leadership in science over many years, and how we're losing that leadership, and this is a multi-generational impact on science in this country, all right? But specifically, let's talk about the federal government cuts to the National Weather Service and to NOAA. Did you know that Central and South Florida National Weather Service offices are currently basically 20 to 40% understaffed? From Tampa to Key West, including the Miami office, 20 to 40% understaffed. Now, this type of staffing shortage is having impacts across the nation because there's been a nearly 20% reduction in weather balloon launches that carry those radiosondes. And what we're starting to see is that the quality of the forecasts is becoming degraded.
The forecast that we received on Wednesday from the National Weather Service predicted 3 to 6 inches of rain in the Concho Valley and 4 to 8 inches of rain in the hill country. We worked with our own meteorologists to fine-tune that weather statement, and as many of you know, and many of you in broadcast journalism and meteorology, you can go back and look at your own forecast, and the amount of rain that fell in this specific location was never in any of those forecasts.
This rain event sat on top of that and dumped more rain than what was forecasted on both of those forks. When we got the report, it was about 7 feet or so on the South Fork, and within a matter of minutes it was up to 29 feet, and all of that converged at the Guadalupe, and that's where we saw those very quick rise in flood.
But listen, everybody got the forecast from the National Weather Service, right? You all got it. You're all in media. You got that forecast. It did not predict the amount of rain that we saw.
Catastrophic damage right now. This search and rescue effort has been going on for over 24 hours now. Just this flood water completely ripping homes off of their foundation. You can see that right behind me. The foundation and the porch of this home is all that is left. Now, we've already seen about 24 confirmed dead so far from this flooding incident. Over 24 still missing. Among those that are missing are those little girls that were at all-girls camp that was along the Guadalupe River. And those efforts are still continuing. They were continuing overnight. And as we move throughout the next few hours, family, parents, the community just praying for any information about their loved ones. Now, the governor of Texas did issue a disaster declaration for 15 counties, hundreds and thousands of first responders just doing everything that they can in order to hopefully find some survivors, finding some people safe throughout this entire incident. The governor did hold a press conference last night. Here's what he had to say.
We will stop at nothing to ensure that every asset and person and plane and
Now, a quick follow-up. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is attacking Mamdani over reports that he identified himself as African-American and Asian on college application. Mamdani was born in Uganda, his parents from India. What are your thoughts on this issue? Mamdani has checked multiple boxes trying to capture what he calls the fullness of his background. I mean, is this a real issue to you?
I think to me, the issue that we have to deal with in New York City, which our Democratic nominee did talk about extensively during the primary campaign, is affordability. And particularly in many of the neighborhoods that are being overwhelmed by gentrification and wiped out by housing displacement, that whoever's going to be the next mayor of the city of New York really needs to articulate a concrete plan for making sure that working class communities, including working class neighborhoods of color, can still have a place in our great city, the city that both of us love, but we know is changing significantly in terms of the opportunity for working families and middle-class folks to be able to continue to call it home.
Following breaking news this weekend out of Texas Hill Country, Governor Abbott held a news conference just in the last hour. Authorities are searching for more than 24 people missing from a girls' summer camp after flash floods that left at least 32 people dead. Authorities are being questioned over whether the camp had sufficient warning about the severe weather. The incident comes as the Trump administration is making deep cuts to weather forecasting services and openly discussing shifting more of the burden for disaster recovery from FEMA to state governments. How concerned are you in light of this? And we're all praying for the families, but how concerned are you in light of this with the country's readiness for extreme weather right now headed into the hurricane season?
Such a very shocking and sad tragedy. And our thoughts and prayers, of course, go out to all of the families of those who have been lost, of those who are still missing. And we also want to express our thanks and appreciation for the first responders who are right now in the midst of a search and rescue operation. I think we are going to have to figure out what happened, why did it happen, and how do we prevent this type of tragedy from ever happening again. And so the question of readiness is certainly something that Congress should be able to explore in a bipartisan way, particularly as we head into a summer where we can expect intensifying extreme weather events hitting massive parts of the United States of America throughout July, August, into the fall.
But you've seen several of the victims' bodies.
Well, a couple of them, yeah. I mean, that, you know, where they said, I didn't see this one, but I saw one down here by the road the other day that they had covered up, waiting for the coroner or somebody to come pick it up, you know.
Well, I'm sorry you've had to see all that. That's
it's just, you know, it's just sad. It's just really sad for the community. And I'm sorry. I try not to do that, but
no, man, totally understandable, real.
If there was one thing that you would ask President Trump, maybe Congress, to do right now that would allow you maybe to create even more jobs than Ford already does, what's one thing they could do?
Maybe I'll ask for two.
Okay.
Okay. One would be the parts tariffs, as I said, because we can't make all the parts here. And if the tariffs are high on the parts, including steel and aluminum, that actually hurts our economy. So that would be one thing. The other thing would be one national standard for fuel economy, greenhouse gases. The administration is already working towards it. We're working with the EPA and other agencies to get that done. That would be great, because it's very complex for us not to have one standard nationally. In the end, we're one country. We should have one national standard.
What is your
message? If I walk down the street, I have every block, I have moms coming up and saying thank you. There's been this deliberate information chaos. So we're going to change all that, and we're going to make it so that people can do studies, that they can do gold standard science, that they can replicate those studies, and we're going to start doing real science and answer these questions for the moms. We're going to restore public faith in the public health regulatory agencies.